You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. This week, my guest is two-time Super Bowl champion Matt Stover. Matt is one of the all-time great place kickers in NFL history. Known for his heroics in big moments and his remarkable consistency, Matt retired after the 2009 season as the NFL's fourth all-time leading scorer. He closed out his career with 422 consecutive extra points, which at the time was an NFL record. In 2011, Matt was inducted into the Baltimore Ravens Ring of Honor. Today, Matt is the vice president and co-founder of the Players Philanthropy Fund, where he helps professional athletes become philanthropic leaders in the community. I think you're going to find our conversation interesting, whether you are a football fan or not. Like a lot of things in life, kicking a field goal requires extraordinary focus and attention to detail. And you have to do a lot of little things right to achieve big success. In my opinion, the NFL place kicker is one of the most interesting positions in all of sports. It's a role many often take for granted, but one so critical to a team's success. The kicker is front and center for many of the game's biggest moments, and so often they get all of the glory when things go well and all of the blame when things don't. Matt and I explored the mindsets, routines, and processes that made him an all-time great in one of the highest pressure jobs in sports. For example, you'll hear how Matt tracked his performance in spiral notebooks throughout his entire career and ways he used those insights to reach his full potential. Matt even walked me step by step through the process of kicking a field goal, literally step by step. After listening to Matt, you'll probably never look at a field goal the same way again. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to two-time Super Bowl champion Matt Stover. When is the first time in your life that you kicked the football and you said, hey, I might be able to do something with this?
When I was 11 years old, believe that or not. The pump pass and kick back in the 70s. Remember, I'm 53. So 1979, I was 11, and I won the pump pass and kick for all my area, Texas, the whole region. At that point, I said, I'm better than most of these kids at that. I just honed in on it. I love to do it. Just like you give a kid a golf club, and next thing you know, he goes to the driving range every single day. That was kind of like I was with the football.
How did you go from there? I mean, did you get up every morning and work on it more? Did you tell coaches, this is what I want to do? What was your next step?
Well, first of all, I was an athlete, so I thought I could actually be a running back at the time, all the way through college and in the pros. I just thought I could, because I was fast and I was tough, but no. I found out real quick through Merton Hanks. Merton and I went to the same high school together, played 14 years in the NFL for the 49ers and the Seahawks. Merton was an elite athlete. I thought I was too. No. I mean, he could 360 slam dunk a basketball. I could barely get a volleyball over the rim. And I learned real quickly that I needed to hone in on a craft. And through high school, I was a wide receiver, a punter, and then I became a place kicker my senior year because Texas high school football, typically the older guy who was the kicker got the job. And that was a mistake, I think, by the head coach. But it ended up working out. I did all three positions my senior year. And then Louisiana Tech took a chance on me, and they gave me the starting job my freshman year, and then the rest is history.
What was the biggest transition going from high school to college at that point? You say they took a chance on you.
Well, being that that was the only job I had. I was a wide receiver. I had 72 catches in 2 years as a wide receiver. I punted. I kicked. I was always on the field except for defense. And so when that happened, getting into college was really, I just honed in on my craft, and I began really to refine it. I would say, though, in 1986 was when I graduated, was in my first year at Louisiana Tech. We had the 2-inch tee and wide uprights, if you recall. And then my senior year, we went down to the ground, but we still had the wider uprights. And that transition helped me astronomically going into the pros because I actually could do it. I was actually better off the ground than I was off the tee. There's just less room for error. So those type of things happened while I was playing back in the 80s. I had all 4 years to play, and I think that's critical that I had the time under pressure to hone in on my position And then getting to the NFL, I was drafted by the New York Giants because the Cowboys were going to take me as a free agent. And that's where I was from, was Dallas. And the New York Giants knew that, so they drafted me in the 12th round, and we ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. So it's pretty cool.
You mentioned the word pressure there, Matt. I mean, it's every position in sports has pressure, but there's something, I think when the layman like me watches a kicker, it just seems like there's more pressure on a kicker than there are, on others, for example. I mean, everybody's got their eyes on you. It's easy to be the hero. It's also easy to be the GOAT. Has pressure always been something that you've innately known how to navigate, or is it something that you've had to learn and develop?
To learn how to handle it well, you have to develop it. It takes time. But here's the biggest trait I would tell any kicker that wants to be a kicker at a high level, or even at a high school level, is that you have to want the ball. Number one, you have to want the ball. If you have the talent, of course, but the trait that you need is that, coach, put me in. I want the ball. In fact, if it's third down and it's in field goal range and your team gets a first down or scores, you get ticked off because you wanted the ball. So you really look back at that in my career, is that I always wanted the ball. And if you recall, I was saying that I was an athlete prior to. I had 72 catches in 2 years as a wide receiver. I wanted the ball. I didn't care if I got hit or not. As long as I had the ball, I didn't care. And being a kicker, the same trait plays. So if you look at these guys that are in the NFL and kicking at a high level in college, that is what they are. That's what defines them as a great kicker.
Matt, it seems like it doesn't matter whether you're an athlete, a CEO, a musician. Everybody I talk to who's successful seems to have this desire to, like, proverbially want the ball. They want to be on stage. They want to be, at the desk making a big decision. They want other leaders coming to them when there's challenges. I guess it's no different in sport. I mean, you hear athletes say pressure is a privilege. I guess that's how you looked at it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And if you don't, you're going to be out there panicking, and your heart rate's going to go up a little bit too high, and you're not going to be able to breathe, and you won't be able to execute. I mean, I've been there. There have been moments in my career. It's always a battle. I'm going to tell you, it's always a battle, but it's a battle you're willing to run across the field and get shot at. Really, that's how you got to think about it. You're out there and you're running, and all these people are just taking shots at you. And you're that 18-year-old kid who doesn't care. And you're that, all of a sudden you get a little bit older and you go, man, I really don't want to run across that field anymore. I'm tired of, but I've never lost that during the course of my career, nor have I after when I stepped outside. It was something that just, I would say it was a great trait of mine. And the leaders of this world, that's what they want to do. They want to be the guy that it's on their shoulders. They want to be the girl that's on their shoulders. And making sure that we as a community, with whether it's your football team or whether it's your work, whatever community you're a part of, that you understand that is what makes that person tick and what makes them great.
So, Matt, let's break it down a little bit, right? Like, I've watched a lot of people kick footballs. I want to kind of like step through the process. So, like, you're on the sidelines and you see a kind of a situation emerging where your services might be necessary. Like, start there and kind of like step me through it.
Number one, you have already thought prior to the game and had visualized and put yourself in that situation that you're going to have to kick the game winner, period. You never go into the game thinking that you're not going to have the game winner. You always prepare for it. You always go through the game in your head prior to 3 or 4 or 5 times during the course of the week. And as you're going through that whole situation, that when it comes, you're emotionally ready for it. You have to have yourself there first. And I would say that gets to be exhausting over the course of a 17-week season, now 18 in the NFL. You got the playoffs after that. I developed a whole process and a routine that allowed me to stay fresh in December and January. And if you look at my kicking record, into the playoffs in December, I was excellent because I had that emotional tank still able to be filled because of how I managed myself on and off the field. And I would say that going into a game, you think that. So when you're on the sideline, you've already processed it. You need to be left alone. I consider a kicker on the team very similar to a sniper in the Army. He's not in the trenches. His jersey's all nice and clean. He may be exhausted because emotionally he's had to be ready to take that one shot, right? But he's there with his finger on the trigger, and the only thing the coach has to say is take the shot. And you want that shot. And so I'm already envisioned it. Maybe had 2 or 3 kicks. Maybe I've made some. Maybe I've missed a couple. You've got to let it go and get ready for that last one.
So now the coach says, okay, Matt, we're going to kick. You go out there. What are like the little things that we're looking at that make a big impact?
Well, number one, I'm going to say this. If you think that the kicker's out there not hearing the opponent hollering at him, no, they hear it. So if you're at home and you're the kicker at home, it's a very quiet stadium, right? Because your fans really aren't going to say much to distract you. That means you can really hear the other team and the sideline just chirping at you. They're just right here. Message Stover, you calling your mother names, trying to just get you to laugh or whatever. So what I do is I separate myself from all that. I just stay back a little bit. And if there's a timeout, if there's not, if they call timeout on you and that icing thing, to me, I knew you were going to ask that, but the icing thing is just, it just gives me more time to line my putt up. That's how I looked at it. I looked at it as a positive, not as, oh crap, I got to wait another 3 minutes here. I got home, man. It made you think about, no, it made me go, okay, let me see my footing. Let me get my pathway. Let me get the win. Just give a little bit more thought to my shot, go through the kick a few more times, whistle blows, let's go. And those type of things, Andrew, you just have to understand they're going to come and you've got to be able to execute it under those extreme pressures. And, you got to want the ball.
When does the thinking stop and the physical take over? You mentioned a lot, like, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this. When does the thinking stop?
When you take the deep breath at the time that you're ready to kick the ball. You get back there, you stop. If you watch the Tucker, the Justin Tucker there at the Ravens, he's an extremely good breather. He's an operatic singer. I mean, the guy and you breathe, and then you're just reacting. Remember, your finger's on the trigger. You've already aimed it. It's already aimed. You take the breath and you just pull the trigger. If you're out there thinking, okay, I got to take a short step, don't move your head. I got to, just keep my shoulders, you're screwed. You're telling yourself a few things. Watch the ball, right? Keep your eye on the target. Watch the ball. That's the target. And number 2, go slow. You don't have, because you're so jacked up with adrenaline, you're so excited that a lot of times you see people jump on it too quick and they, goes left and right. You just got to stay in tempo, stay slow. And that's what makes a great golfer too. You stay within tempo. You've already envisioned your shot. You already taken aim. You just react.
So now you're reacting. What's happening between the ball comes out? Like, how do you know if something's going wrong?
You're in midair. I mean, you're already in. You're trusting your holder is going to get it down. If you're thinking about what's going to go on in front of you and any doubt, oh dear goodness, it's going to make your kick extremely hard. So if you look at the most proficient kickers today, is that their snaps and holds are 99.9% of the time over the spot, laces in front, they get to hit it. Dear God, if I would have had that during the course of my career, I mean, it wasn't like that my first 10 years. When the deep snapper became a position, Andrew, that's when proficiency went up another 8 points, on their percentage. It was because if you look at how well that position and the deep snapper makes the holder better. If those two guys are doing their job on clockwork, all I have to do is go. So when that left hand, if I'm a right-footed kicker, and that left hand of the holder goes up, I'm watching that left hand because that's where the ball's going. Remember, I got my eye on the target. When that left hand goes up to catch the ball, that's when I go. And so when I go, I'm entrusting everything in front of me. That is, I'm not thinking about the line. I'm not thinking about the snap and a hold. I'm just thinking about that spot and that ball. And I had that innate ability to let go of everything. I'm not going to tell you it wasn't hard sometimes because there were times when you thought about it a little bit too much and you missed, right? It just happens. I don't care who you are. But you do have to understand that that is a central focus and that you're not out there thinking about anything else.
Matt, you're one of the most consistent kickers in NFL history. At the time you retired in 2009, you were 4th all-time in the NFL in points. How did you make adjustments throughout the season? Or should I say, did you make adjustments throughout the season? I mean,
you tried to go into the season. Great question. You tried to go into the season with your swing. You did. And there were a few times that I made some adjustments during the offseason that ended up exposing some big problems during the course of the season. So you better know who you are. And I mean that like as a person and as a kicker or a pitcher or anybody that does a specialized position, because you know what got you to greatness. Because if you're in the NFL, you're great. I accepted that. I'm one of the best in the world. You earn this. You deserve this. The Lord's, watching over you. Let's just, utilize this talent. And so what I did is I just honed in on it so much where I focused myself on the technique, and I really didn't make it overcomplicated.
So most of the changes, like I say, you don't want to really be fixing the airplane while you're flying from Baltimore to California. So most of the work from a standpoint of making tweaks and adjustments, looking at film, trying to figure things out was going on in the off season and in training camp?
Yep, it does. And I had 19 Mead folders. Those Mead notebooks that you have for school? I have 19 of them filled with nothing but notes. And every game I would extract my thoughts, one or two thoughts, right? What was I good with? What was I bad with? And then if it was something that was just very enlightening would be the word, I would take that and take it to the front page. And by the end of this year, I would have 4 or 5 things that defined me for that year. And that allowed me to say, okay, I had a really good pregame, or I stayed slow, or I watched the ball every single time. Because many times as an athlete, you're thinking about where the ball's going rather than where the ball is. You're thinking past the shot, and you can't. You've got to keep yourself focused on the task at hand. Is that target is that ball. And, pitcher is that, what's my pitch and where's the mitt, that type of thing. Where's my strike zone? You can't get outside of that because a lot of times you think past it. So, as a kicker, creating that environment for you and knowing who you are through the notebooks, through taking those notes, so that if something does go haywire, when in 2005 you go 0 for 3, opening night, Sunday Night Football, first game of the season, I missed 3 field goals. Lost the game against the Colts. And I had made an adjustment during the offseason where I backed up just a little bit in my stance to get more power. The further back you go, the more momentum you can, gather coming into the ball. Well, I was always really short to the ball because the field conditions in Cleveland and Baltimore were terrible for the first 10 years because field turf wasn't there and the maintenance was terrible on our grass field. And you had the high school games, college games on it. And so from that year, I had moved back a little bit, and I just it wasn't exposed when the pressure wasn't on during preseason. It's just not as pressure. You get in that first game, your heart's thumping, and I was jumping on the ball a little bit too hard, and because I was a little bit further back, and I went left, right, left. And it was like, what the heck? I go back to the year before, I look at my first page, and it says, move up, slow up, and watch the ball. Those 3 things. Move up, slow up, watch the ball. Okay, that's exactly what I did. I missed 1 field goal for the rest of the year.
Was the notebook in a suggestion of a coach, something you picked up on your own? Where did that start?
I figured since I didn't have a coach to help me, I better help me because nobody else is. Meaning there was no technique kicking coach out there that I had access to. So between me, I learned how to watch film and I learned how to take notes. And those 2 things, I defined who I was within my form like any good golfer has. Now, they typically have coaches to be able to see those little innuendos and what causes what. I had to learn all that on my own. And since that time, Andrew, I have coached. Right now, one of the kickers that's in the league is Mason Crosby. Mason, I took as a little 12-year-old kid at Georgetown, Texas, where I used to live during the off season. He used to meet me up at St. Gabriel Park at 7:30 in the morning, literally. About a half dozen times, I just taught him the rhyme to the reasons and the absolutes and what you have to do. And next thing you know, he's an All-American in college and goes to the pros. And I did that with Josh Scobie. I did it with Chris Bonio. I did it with Nick Novak. I've got a kid that I just coached at the University of Florida who's going to be there next year, a guy named Trey Smack. Be watching for that kid. Oh, my goodness. He's already got a pro leg. He just needs to stay healthy and get better as he's in Florida. He's got the job there. I mean, there's nobody going to beat this kid and in the country. And I don't care if he's a senior. He'll beat him. So he's that good. And all I did with him is I took him off the lacrosse field because he played lacrosse with my son there in Baltimore. And because Joe said, hey, my son said, hey, man, this kid can kick. You should look at him. And I just squared him up, taught him the rhyme of the reason. Next thing you know, he's the best in the country. So, and I did it with Brad Craddock at the University of Maryland. So I had to learn how to coach myself, create the absolutes, understand the technique, and then it's replicable after that. So if you miss left, you miss right, you know why.
Let's talk about kind of like off the field a little bit, like leadership, locker room, the team culture. I mean, when you're a kicker, I mean, it doesn't feel to me from afar like you're part of kind of all these other cohorts in the locker room. But you were a leader throughout your career. How did you assert yourself as a leader when you weren't involved in the large majority of plays over the course of a game?
Well, number one, I think it's extremely important that you understand the culture of a locker room. I mean, it's a microcosm of our culture. I mean, and think about it, 78% of the league is African American. I mean, they're black guys. And so here I am, a little white guy, totally different, a culture that's not the same. And so if you understand that piece and you understand that the locker room is a great place to learn how to develop and gain trust within relationship. I mean, and those guys, I learned their stories, they learned my story. And we became brothers at arms, man. They trusted me. There was one time when a radio show went around the locker room and asked, hey, if you were out of town and your wife needed to get out on a date or something, and you needed one of your teammates to take her out, who would you vote? Every one of them said, oh, Stover, man. No problem. Stover, take care of it. And it's true because they knew that I was that kind of dude. And I was a player rep for 16 years. So I represented them as their union rep for those 16 years. So I gained the trust. I even had permission to go up to the head coach if I hear something in the locker room and go tattletale on what's going on in the locker room. Now, in the context of coach just wants you to know, something's going on in the locker room that you may need to know about. I just think it would be beneficial for the team if you did. And Ray Lewis or Jonathan Ogden, I would say, man, I'm going to go up there. They went, go for it, right? And the reason was because they trusted me that I wouldn't be saying names. I wouldn't be calling anybody out. It would only be for the better of the team. And I had to deal with John Harbaugh when he was there in 2008. You can ask him. And it was, he was breaking some of the rules in practice. Remember, he got fined for that. And I had to go up to him and say, hey, coach, we got to deal with this. And so that to me, I would rather have been known as a great teammate than a great kicker, even though, a lot of people don't even know who Matt Stover was when he was playing. I really did not care. What I cared about is what that team thought about me, my teammates thought about me. And during that Super Bowl 35 run, when we won Super Bowl 35 against the New York Giants, the kicker had an amazing role in that whole season when we couldn't score touchdowns. And, we had the number one defense in the league, and they trusted me with that. And even when I went 0 for 3 in 2005, Andrew, you have a Ray Lewis or a Rex Ryan come up to you and says, well, Stove, you got those out of the way. Let's go. Because, that was, to me, that blew me away that they thought that highly of me to say, you know what, he had a bad day. He's gained my trust. That won't happen again. And I took full responsibility for it. Told him it wouldn't happen again, and it didn't ever again in my career. So those are the things that you develop over time. You develop through relationships. You understand the dynamics of a locker room, culturally, race, from whether they're from the suburbs or from the urban cities. You learn their story and you gain the right to speak because they trust you.
Matt, let's talk about some of the things that you're doing now. Players Philanthropy Fund, you're involved in a variety of different entrepreneurial ventures. For the listeners, let's kind of break down what Players Philanthropy Fund does.
Well, thanks. Yeah, the Players Philanthropy Fund is a donor advised fund that we set up fiscal sponsorship contracts with individuals or corporations that allows them to operate as if they have their own private foundation, but they're actually utilizing my nonprofit platform to do so. So we are the foundation. They set up an account inside of the Players Philanthropy Fund, right? And they get to operate white labeled, meaning their names, Ed Reed or Dwayne Wade or whoever it is. They get to operate as if they have their own private foundation. It looks and feels like they do, but it's actually my 501c3 status, mine, meaning the Players Philanthropy Fund. I'm on the board. And why I created that is because I always felt like a kicker. I wanted the athletes back. And even though they're trying to do charitable good, they're trying to better their communities, they can find themselves in a lot of trouble, Andrew, just because they don't understand the compliance rules. They don't understand the accounting measures, receipts, registrations, all the taxes that you have, the 990s and the audits. So what we do is strictly back office. We make sure that everything they do is compliant across the board with whatever funds they're raising, whatever funds they're distributing for their program or whether it's for grants and how they run an event, golf events or galas or whatever, grant applications. We're just making sure that what they're doing in order to create that environment and create the good in their work and their communities is being done properly so they don't get themselves in trouble. And this goes across the board. We do it not only for athletes, but we do it for everyday people because We do it at a very low fee. And we did that because I knew if we did it properly and efficiently, it would be cheaper, and therefore we would scale it. And we really have done that. We have over 360 accounts now.
So over 360 accounts. So essentially, I mean, you're taking a lot of the inertia away or resistance away that would slow down the progress that another athlete, entertainer, or somebody just, off the street could do through their charitable efforts.
And what happens is they depend on other people to do their accounting or their bookkeeping, whatever it is, and they don't do the job because they don't do that every day. That's all we do is nonprofit compliance. I mean, and so if somebody asks us that they want to do something, we'll say no to them because we're the fiduciary. And financial advisors, agents love it. Teams love it because they know that if they come inside of us, they're not going to find themselves in trouble because they're paying their brother, their sister, their mom, or somebody too much. And it makes even though it could be legal, the perception and the optics of it can really be very negative. I don't want that to happen to them because I'll say to them, no, best practices is this. You can't pay somebody that if you're only raising this type of money. The grant process, no, you can't say this because if you do that, you're going to find yourself not getting the grant. Or whatever it is, hiring people, contract oversight, those type of things we have to do with them.
Are there skills and things that you developed during your NFL career that you now take to your business career? Are there parallels?
Absolutely. Well, that number one is developing relationships, gaining the trust. And, I learned that, like you said earlier, my leadership in the locker room, even though I was a kicker, I was a leader and I knew my position. Was I Ray Lewis? No. He's the dude, man. And I followed him. He was a great teammate, never belittled me, always esteemed me. So those are the type of things that I always do within my team at Players Philanthropy Fund. We got a phenomenal staff and we're all in it. We understand that if we continue to support one another and do our work efficiently, then the final product is going to be a whole lot more money going out to our public in order to support it. And I think that's where it should be in the first place. I think our community should take care of our communities better. And I want to do everything we can. We were going to have over $30 million going through the Players Philanthropy Fund this year. And we've been doubling. And get ready. It's coming even more because more people now understand who we are and what we're about and how well we do our job.
The concept, Matt, of never belittling, always esteeming. I think that has so many applications in sport, business, and everywhere in life and community now. Matt, this has been so much fun. You've answered questions that I've had for years about place kicking and navigating pressure. And I think most importantly, there are lessons from your career and your experiences that we can apply to other sports. We can apply them to business. And like I said, community, life in general. So there's no question, Matt Stover, you are a tarp puller. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me, my friend. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Andrew. And I've pulled many a tarps to cover that field. Don't think I haven't because my job depended on that field.
I bet it did. Matt, have a great rest of your week and we'll talk again soon. All right?
All right. Bless you, sir.
Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Instagram at AndrewMoses123 and sign up for my monthly email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.